This is Odin, and this, even that, yeah, all these are Odin in Record of Ragnarok. They call him a chief god, the supreme god of the Norse pantheon, a nameless god, god of creation, lord of rage, lord of madness, supreme god of Valhalla, Midgard and Helheim, the High One, All-Father, Hooded One, Terrible One, God of Runes, and most importantly, the strongest God of War. I call him the main and true villain of this series, and his goal is simple. He wants to destroy, what you may be asking, everyone. Humanity, the other gods, the universe, and everything else. He wields this divine weapon, the legendary demon spear Gungnir, the primordial sword Gram, the bracelet, helmet, and necklace worn by fellow primordial god pillars Ymir, Chaos, and Satan, and likely a next level set of abilities. Therefore, this has led many to think that Odin is going to take the rank 1 spot as the strongest character in the Record of Ragnarok series. But here on the Mysterious Weeb YouTube channel, I'll be breaking down absolutely everything you need to know. So right at the start of the series, chapter 1, we see Odin looking at Brynhilda menacingly. This is right after she objected the destruction of humanity and began introducing the Ragnarok tournament outlined in the Valhalla constitution. But all the talk throughout the chapter is only from his birds. We are then introduced to his son, Thor, who is fighting in round 1 for the gods, and Odin telling him to crush humanity beneath his foot, alongside explaining some aspects of Thor's lore and abilities throughout his domination of humanity at the start of the series. We are then introduced to Loki and have a goofy interaction between him and Odin, highlighting that bro does not care about Loki's pranks or trickery. However, the first time we get an all-out wild reaction from Odin in the series is during the Adam and Zeus fight, where humanity's fighter went far beyond what anyone thought was possible for a human, and maybe even for a god as well. Bro is simply just too goated. And then in round 3, when Sasaki defeated Poseidon, the first time a god has been slayed in this tournament and humanity had gained a point, we see the Norse god absolutely crashing out and rage coming from him, alongside him also being pissed during the following round when Jack the Ripper defeated Hercules and the scores were now at a tie, which eventually brings us to the start of round 5, the introduction of Buddha and the Lucky Gods, where we get the first big moment from Odin in the series. This is when him and Zeus arrive to stop the group battle between Team Buddha and Team Loki, where we have his insane pressure appearing for the first time, pretty much telling everyone to pack it up. The Lucky Gods are fearful, the Shinsengumi are scared and worried, Loki loses interest right away, and even the Mad Lad Buddha begins taking his leave, of course after having a goated interaction with Zeus. Then the two supreme gods remained, where Zeus says to Odin, "Sheesh, quite a troublesome man." That being said, this Ragnarok isn't quite going as expected, a Norseman, before taking his leave as well to watch the current fight between Shiva and Raiden, where we see Odin alone in this flower garden, beginning to crash out or reveal his true sinister nature, an evil smile as the flowers begin to wither away. Eventually bringing us to round 6, where Buddha ends up betraying the gods and fights for humanity instead, enraging absolutely every god and forcing Odin to actually speak up in front of everyone. Buddha, are you prepared to make enemies of all of us gods Pretty ironic considering what Odin's true plans actually are. However, he spends the entirety of the Buddha fight mostly just watching without saying anything, some confusing looks with the whole Hajun situation, and of course rage when Buddha eventually claimed victory for humanity once again, resulting in another unique scene from Odin in the series. He ends up pulling up on Beelzebub, coming to the conclusion that this god likely had something to do with the previous fight with Buddha and the arrival of Hajun, where he's saying this: "I have waited a long time in preparations for this battle. I will permit no one to disrupt it," which only gains Beelzebub's interest rather than scaring him away to any degree. Once again, the foreshadowing and hints about the truth are beginning to be set up at this point. Now, in regards to round 7, 8 and 9, all we get from Odin is various reaction shots. Sometimes rage, for example when Huang defeated Hades, but as a whole nothing much from the Norse god until after round 9 concluded, where we see some of the gods meeting to decide who's going to fight next, having Odin sit alongside Thor and Loki, where they accept Anubis's request to fight in round 10 and don't seem to have a problem with the whole Susanoo cucking Anubis situation, not really having any interest in that choice and what's going on for round 10. But then we get all the major reveals about Odin. This is right after the meeting where we see Odin leave and Buddha pulls up on him, like always wielding true Mad Lad energy, and questions the Norse god on one topic: who the heck is Siegfried? Which eventually resulted in Odin raging out and trying to actually take out the Enlightened One, alongside Beelzebub arriving as well and clashing with Odin. Therefore, before I continue this fight and the breakdown of this situation, let me quickly explain Odin's canon flashback when he was indeed a primordial god. Long before all the gods we know in Record of Ragnarok existed, there was 88 primordial gods that created the worlds, the heavens, etc. Everything we know about Record of Ragnarok today. And among those 88 primordial gods, there were those considered the supreme, pretty much the 4 strongest. Ymir, the primordial giant, the demon king Satan, the lord of chaos, and the creator god Odin, the 4 pillars that make up this group. Until one day, these pillars felt as though the incomplete gods, the lesser ones, were not more so worthy. As such, they wanted to take them out, the massacre of the gods. Out of the original 88 gods, 7 others joined the 4 pillars, making it a war between 11 primordial gods and the 77 remaining, and the battle was not close at all. We see Odin at the forefront with the other 3 pillars behind him, absolutely dominating the other primordials, highlighting that at this point he's probably much stronger than everyone else, forcing the remaining ones to seal Odin and the other pillars away as their only chance, succeeding in the process but losing almost everyone. We know Izanagi and perhaps some others like Gaia survived, but from what we can see in these panels, it was not close to 77, highlighting that the original version of Odin was an absolute monster without a doubt. But his origin story continues. As they were about to be sealed away, the 4 pillars unleashed their weapons, or the 4 treasures, into the world for someone to find in the future. Within these weapons was the original soul, memories, etc. of these primordials, until one day this nameless god came upon Odin's sword he sent out. As such, the supreme god Odin returned to existence, taking control of this unnamed god and later becoming the Odin we know in the series right now. So that's the original flashback we know, with the current era of the Norse god connecting to the one and only only Siegfried, the boyfriend of Brunhilde. So let me break down who he is alongside his connection and role when it comes to Odin in the Record of Ragnarok story. Siegfried is the most important character in Record of Ragnarok. This is for Brunhilde, who started everything we're watching, and for Odin, the main villain in the entire series. He was first mentioned in chapter 65 after round 7 Huang vs Hades concluded, where we see Buddha vibing after his victory, with human fighter Kintoki making his first ever appearance, resulting in the Enlightened One to ask this human friend to look into someone. The man who will shake up Ragnarok, the dragon-slaying hero Siegfried. And we now know Buddha was absolutely right. Bringing us to chapter 77, right after round 8 Beelzebub vs Tesla finish, showing Brunhilde alone, crying for the fallen fighters on both sides, the joy of Lubu, love of Adam, pride of Poseidon, justice with Hercules, passion of Raiden, innocence with Zero, dignity of Hades, and progress of Tesla, noting that this sorrow is directed at both the gods and humans, something important to remember moving forward. But we see that Buddha was watching from behind the entire time, right away revealing that he has something to ask Brunhilde. The reason he's here is because he wants to know about her ex-boyfriend Siegfried, claiming that he's been locked up in Tartarus for a long time and questions if him and Ragnarok are connected, where Brunhilde stops him right away to reveal that Sig is not her ex-boyfriend, naturally before taking her leave, revealing to us that they are still together, with us seeing the current state of this hero. Deep within Tartarus, we see two guards talking about Beelzebub's round 8 victory, which is overheard by Siegfried within his cell, being shocked that the scores are 4 wins to both sides at that time, resulting in the guards to question him on who he's rooting for, the gods or humans, considering he's a half human, half god, officially confirmed right here. But before he can answer, they take their leave as they aren't meant to be talking to him, where he notes that it's boring down here, and we see the insane extent he's actually chained up within Tartarus, but is more worried about Brunhilde, wanting her to take care of herself considering the insanity she's causing for the gods right now. Alongside the first time we actually officially see him in the story being in this chapter. Bringing us to the next time Siegfried is brought up, once again by Buddha, this time him confronting the likes of Odin. This is in chapter 85 with Detective Buddha asking Odin who the heck is Siegfried, and mentioning that Kintoki found out that he's being locked down in Tartarus by the official order of Odin himself, and for the following reason, which doesn't make sense considering the severity of his punishment, that being stealing Odin's magic sword and killing his favorite dragon Fafnir, revealing to us that Tartarus is more so used for those who did rebellion against Valhalla or the assassination of major gods, something nowhere close to the crimes apparently committed by Siegfried. And on top of that, if he did piss off Odin to such an extent, it's more likely the case that Odin would just eliminate him, kill him, something that would be very easy for Odin to do considering his position in the story, resulting in Buddha to be very suspicious with what's going on, coming to this conclusion. Since Brunhilde is Siegfried's lover, and Brunhilde started Ragnarok in order to save humanity, it's likely the case that she also started it to save her beloved Siegfried, and Odin for some unknown reason cannot allow Siegfried to be taken out of Tartarus, leaving us with this question. What is the link between Ragnarok and the rescue of Siegfried? Something that initially at the time triggered Odin, resulting in the entire fight between him and Buddha, the arrival of Beelzebub, the introduction of all the primordial gods in the series, including all the wild reveals about Odin and why he is indeed the main villain of everything. But now we have answers for everything that's going on with Siegfried, Brunhilde, and of course this wild god. But before that, we learn from Kintoki that entering Tartarus isn't really possible as the guards will not allow it, resulting in these three, who I guess are now close friends, likely trying to break in to learn more themselves, something that's just hinted at in this panel but will likely be explored in the future of Record of Ragnarok. With us seeing Brynhilda alone again after round 10 finished, struggling to decide a human fighter for round 11 and claiming to herself just a bit more and I can see you again, Siegfried, highlighting that her true goal is indeed this. But all the wild reveals occur as we see Nostradamus kidnap Go and take her directly to Siegfried in Tartarus, having the ability to stroll through without the guards stopping him to any degree, alongside wielding this item, where he refers to Siegfried as his friend and that he is the one who wanted to see Go. So let's first address what's going on with Nostradamus. We are told that he's actually Siegfried's doctor, directly appointed to by Odin, something that is very strange and we get some details on shortly, but nothing complete, and it is somewhat bizarre as we were previously told that Nostradamus was locked within Tartarus himself, so I don't know exactly what's going on with him, but his stocks are indeed rising once again. So we get it 100% confirmed that Odin is indeed the one who locked Siegfried in Tartarus and appointed Nostradamus as the doctor, but Sig himself claims, no matter what happens, Lord Odin cannot allow me to die, connecting to Odin's ultimate goal, which I'll be going over very shortly. But he first says to Gold the reason he wanted to talk to her is that I need to borrow your strength in order to stop the revival of the primordial gods, where currently he has found all the other treasures but doesn't have the means to undo the seal and bring them back. This is because two other things are required. The first is the water of life and the second is the primordial vessel. The water of life is revealed to be the life energy of all humans, something that will be gained if the gods win the Record of Ragnarok tournament. And the second one, the vessel, is this: a god who receives the ruins of the Yggdrasil contained within the four treasures of calamity and the water of life, which is the life energy of all humans, will become a vessel achieving these two. He will gain the power to break the seal, the Yggdrasil will be released again, humanity will be gone, and they will continue the plan of taking out the lesser gods, destruction of Valhalla, and pretty much everyone. But to be considered a vessel, you have to be compatible with all four of the divine ruins, something Odin could not find for a long time. This includes himself until he officially found it. That is Siegfried himself. He is the one, for some unknown reason, that is compatible. With the situation around Odin finding him being incredible wacky as well. This is during Loki's flashback where we learned that he was actually in love with Brynhilda, trying everything in his power to make her laugh and smile, demonstrating his love for her. However, she did not feel the same way and eventually got with Siegfried, making Loki incredibly jealous and enraged. As such, he creates a plan so he can have Brynhilda for himself, transforming into Siegfried with one of his abilities and killing Odin's dragon Fafnir. The official reason Siegfried is currently imprisoned in the story was actually Loki transformed as such, resulting in a scene where Brynhilda and Sig are invited to Odin's pretty much area within the Norse realm, thinking that they're going to be congratulated on their recent marriage. However, that is not the case. They are here to conduct punishment for the murder of Fafnir. Odin is enraged, resulting in the situation where the Norse god realizes that Siegfried has the potential to be the primordial god vessel, This is because the treasures within Odin's body begin reacting to Siegfried's aura or presence, resulting in Odin to punish him severely, eternal imprisonment in Tartarus due to Odin having the authority as a supreme god, being insanely lucky by this situation and what Loki has done, with no one, including Loki himself, being aware of exactly what happened here. Loki, after everything was done, still believed this was due to Fafnir being killed, not understanding anything about the primordial god lore, and Odin's true goal throughout his entire life. Meaning, once the gods win, Odin will use the trapped Siegfried to 100% complete his plan. That's where we have Brunhilde arriving, who right now is trying to save humanity, save the gods, and Siegfried himself. Absolutely wild. Therefore, with all of the canon lore and flashback stuff out of the way, let's go to the current Record of Ragnarok tournament and what's going on with Odin. The whole group fight where the Norse god was trying to take out Buddha and Beelzebub concluded with the arrival of Thor to stop them. This is also alongside Kintoki and Adamas as well, with his son pretty much being the main one to stop him from raging out, which eventually was shown to be foreshadowing for this human to face this god. But we had the conclusion of round 10, similar to some of the prior rounds, not really getting much from Odin himself. However, we eventually got Brunhilde baiting Loki to fight in round 11, where she had chosen the White Death Simo, who managed to defeat Loki and put the gods in the lead, forcing Odin to make his move in the Record of Ragnarok series. Which is exactly what happens. We see Odin pull up on Brunhilde, raging out, saying, "What is your goal?" Obviously, it's to save humanity. And instead of being fearful of the Supreme God this time, she outright challenges him and says, "It's to kill you," making the god laugh as it relates to love, claiming that unfortunately Siegfried belongs to him due to him becoming the vessel for the revival of the primordial gods. This outright saying it at this point, claiming that his desire can no longer be stopped by anyone, even though in the previous scene he was kinda stopped by Thor. But he makes it incredibly clear to Brunhilde that he doesn't want to control all of Valhalla, he wants to destroy it. Helheim, Midgard and Valhalla, destroy it all and bring about the end of everything. That is his absolute goal when he resurrects the fellow primordial gods, what he was originally doing in his flashback. Which naturally brings us to the big reveal that Brunhilde had chosen Kintoki since the very start as the one to face and defeat Odin, the only one capable of doing so, and apparently being a anti-Odin fighter as well. An aspect that seems to be highlighted more so right away when round 12 begins. We have Kintoki claim that he also inherited the will of Golnir, with this symbol of a rune appearing on his arm alongside his aura going absolutely mental, something actually freaking out Odin. And Golnir has been mentioned a few times previously in the series. The major one was during the whole Buddha and Beelzebub situation, where Beelzebub came upon a book created by Golnir that outlined what Odin is exactly doing in relation to the primordial gods. However, aspects of that book had rotted away, potentially connecting to Odin's ability, as during his flashback, when he was still a nameless god and came upon the sword of the primordial creator god Odin, he also had the Book of Golnir with him, the banned history of the gods, where he's been researching this weapon and successfully tracked it down, resulting in this scene on screen right now, and this nameless god becoming the supreme god Odin we know in the current story. So when it comes to his current situation, he's fighting Kintoki at the start of round 12. His entrance was pretty much the most godly we've ever seen throughout the series, where we learn of some of the 200 titles he's known as, Then right away as the fight begins, he enters his transformation, or as Zeus claims, so that's his battle form, something no one seems to be aware of, but wields insane pressure and is striking fear from everyone watching. Not really showing much respect to Kentoki outside of Brynhilde being quite cheeky and clever, meaning he must have some impressive strength, which resulted in the scene of the symbol and Goldnir name drop, which brings us to what exactly is going to happen throughout this fight. Most people have come to the conclusion that Odin is going to win, as if he doesn't, the tournament is over, humanity has won. A draw is always possible, but a majority of people are betting on Odin defeating Kentoki. But I think it's clear to say that this fight is going to be insanely close, and once Odin does win this, his role in the story will likely continue, and a wild war at the end of the Ragnarok series is very possible as well.